At first light, the calves whisper to the rock. Frost lifts in a thin breath from the sage. Fence posts throw long teeth across the pasture, and 24 bawling mouths drift quiet as they near the glinting hump of granite by the creek bend. They nose it like a ritual. They press their tongues to it, rasping, patient, the way calves work a bottle when the milk is slow. A wet sheen gathers. The stone seems to drink them back. "Hey," says Jack Merritt, voice low in the cold. "What's the fuss with that thing?" He's bone-tired and behind on everything that matters. A tractor with a cough. A mortgage that was kind even when it wasn't. Summer hay that came in light. He stands with his palms hooked on the top wire, glove leather cracked white at the knuckles, and watches the young ones circle that rock as if it hums. Their hides are blown up against the breeze, the color of coffee with too much dust in it. Steam unwinds from their nostrils. It smells like clover and iron. They've done this all week, every dawn, straight to the granite. Jack moved the salt block to the east paddock. He hauled a tub of molasses to the shade of the lone cottonwood. He ran clean water through the black plastic line and let it overflow the trough so the bank turned to chocolate. None of it changed this. Calves slipping from sleep, beelining to a rock that isn't anything but a rock. They lick until their tongues go quiet. When he walks them off, they drift back, drawn by something they don't question. The sky over the Wind River Range goes peach, then brass. Meadowlarks drill their silver notes from fence lines. Coyotes track the ridges, silhouettes like parentheses. Jack swings through the gate and trudges out. The earth is cold and crisp enough to answer each step. His boots pick up pale mica dust. Up close, the granite rises chest-high, a rounded back slicked by tongues. It's peppered with pink feldspar and black hornblende, the kind of yard boulder landscapers crane into subdivisions and call statement. Jack lays his palm on it. Cold bleeds up his wrist. The calves lean in, eyes soft, as if they're sharing a secret he wasn't taught. "Morning," he says to them, because he talks to stock the way he once talked to his boy when he was small. Soft, steady, like he's pulling a wagon through snow. "You found your church, huh?" One calf, white blaze crooked like a lightning bolt, gives the rock a final swipe and blinks at him unbothered. Jack lifts a corner of his glove with his teeth and presses a bare fingertip to the stone. It tastes like nickels, like a nosebleed. On day 3, he laughs it off, calls it a calf thing, tells himself he's seen stranger. On day 4, his stomach tightens because obsession has a sound, and this is it. Rasp, rasp, rasp. On day 5, he phones Dr. Naomi Reyes, the vet who learned the land by getting lost on it and never quite forgave the map. "You ever seen calves fixate on a rock?" he asks. "On salt," she says. "On a pickup's tailgate when someone spills mineral. On your boot if you're hiding a cookie. A rock, not unless someone poured something on it. No one poured anything. That you know." She comes at dusk, headlights brushing the cottonwood in white. Kneeling, she scrapes, swabs, sniffs. No oil, no feed, no urine. Not much of anything. Her pen flicks. "I'll run a sample anyway." He nods. The calves press back in as soon as they step away, as if proximity is comfort, as if the day spills out of the stone and into their bones. Night cracks open wide. Stars light the pasture like frost thrown high. In the house, Jack warms his hands on a chipped mug and does the math he hates. There's not enough in the account. There's not enough in the barn. There's just enough in the man. And some days, even that is a question. He glances at the window where the rock is a dark idea in the grass. He hears the rasp in his head. He doesn't pray, not out loud, but his eyes rest on the door frame the way a hand might rest on a shoulder, and he says to the empty room, "If there's a message, send it plain." Dawn returns. The calves walk to their altar. Jack follows. Wyoming sun doesn't exactly rise. It reveals. It burns the frost off the timothy and turns everything that was gray into something that remembers its color. Jack steps into it and the chill peels away, leaving a man made of chores. He checks the line fence to the north where a corner post leans like an exhausted father. He peeks on the hens, on the 2 old ewes he never sold because his late wife, Anna, liked their faces, on the barn cat that pretends indifference like it's a profession. He counts calves by pattern, 2 with socks, 1 with a skunk stripe, the freckled heifer that walks like a queen, 24, plus the little red steer that adopted everybody. This land is a ledger. It records what you take and what you give back, and the arithmetic is never sentimental. Jack's daddy handed him 80 acres and a stubborn streak, and Jack added 40 acres when the neighbor with the bad hip needed to move closer to town. A few good years. then a run of dry ones that taught him the names of weeds, then the cost of diesel, the price of parts, the interest that grew teeth. He keeps a laminated sheet of numbers under a magnet on the fridge, and sometimes the only way to look at it is sideways. The calves find the granite. They start the rasping prayer. Dr. Reyes calls mid-morning. "Your rock is boring," she says. "No contamination. Nothing that explains a buffet. That's good news. That's no news. So I still have a weird problem and no reason. You could fence it off. They'd crash that wire for it. You could move the rock." Jack looks at it. Too big for one man, too inconvenient to ignore. "I could," he says. "I shouldn't have to move my world because calves got religion." "Or," she says, "you trust their noses. Animals pick up what we don't. What are they finding?" "I don't know. But if they're not getting sick, I'm less worried and more curious." Curious is how trouble dresses when it wants to be invited in. Jack thanks her, pockets his phone, and walks out with a pry bar and a length of chain that has hauled more than it has broken. He kneels and tests the earth around the granite. The bar finds a seam, the gravel loosened by hooves, and slides. He levers. The rock doesn't care. He levers again. Something shifts. A small groan the way old boats talk. "Neighborly help," says a voice, rough as a pickup bed. It's Cole Danner from the West Section, a man who loans wrenches and judgment in equal parts. He's got a coffee to go in one hand and a look on his face like everyone is a cousin he likes fine but doesn't entirely trust. "Heard you've got a celebrity rock. You hear quick? News drives faster than rain." He jerks a thumb toward his machine yard. "I've got the Bobcat warmed. We can nudge that thing." Jack hesitates for a breath that is about money. He hates asking. He hates owing. He also hates standing by while the calves polish a mystery. "I'll swap you a half a beef this fall." "Deal," Cole says before the sentence has a period. They idle the Bobcat down the lane. Steel tracks clicking, diesel coughing. The calves lift their heads and make room the way folks do for a casket. Respectful, skeptical, regretful to see it move. Jack loops the chain under the rock, metal biting stone. Cole leans on the joysticks, gentle as if he's moving a sleeping child. The chain tightens, the machine hunkers, and the granite rolls a foot with a thick throat-clearing sound, leaving a dark oval of earth that has not seen the sun in a very long time. What rises is smell first. Damp mineral, like a cellar opened after a flood. A clean iron edge. Something old, like a thunderhead that took a century to pass. The calves step closer and breathe it the way townspeople breathe bread from a bakery door. "Hold up," Jack says, hand out. He crouches, scrapes back soil with his glove, and feels his fingernails snag on something that is not root or rock. It has a pattern. It has a curve. He brushes more. The color is not earth, but a dry, ghostly brown with a hint of polish, where the calves' tongues must have dragged minerals up from the depths. He keeps going because his hands know to keep going when his head is slow. Cole sets the bucket down like he's putting down an argument. "What are we looking at?" "A bad stump," Jack says automatically because small answers are safe. Stumps don't look like ribs. The word lands. Ribs. Long, arched, nested like the hoops of an old barrel. Jack swallows, and the sound of it is loud in his own ears. Wind moves the grass in long green sighs. A meadowlark tries a note and thinks better of it. He is a man of cattle and weather and bills, but even he can feel when a room, an open-air room under God's ceiling, changes shape. The calves edge closer. One puts its nose to the soil and draws in, then lifts its head, satisfied like a child after drinking from a creek. Jack's phone is in his pocket. He pulls it like it might shock him. He scrolls past the bank's number, past the parts supplier, and lands on Naomi's name because the world feels steadier when people who study things are invited in. "Don't ask me to talk you out of something," she says by way of hello. "We moved the rock," he says, voice careful because words are now matches. "And I think I found a skeleton. Cow, deer, elk." He looks at the sweep of bone, the length, the way the earth is shaped by what it has held. Bigger. There is a silence that is not empty. "Text me your pin," Naomi says, already moving, tires already putting gravel in the air. Jack stands. He brushes dirt from his palms and it floats like silt. The calves draw a ragged ring around him and the oval of shadow in the ground. He feels something he has not felt since his boy was born. Terror and wonder braided so tight they're indistinguishable. The stone was a door. Something under it has waited. He doesn't know whether he's trespassing or coming home. "Folks," he tells the calves, because he will always talk to his animals. I think we just picked up the corner of the map. Ehe, if you're seeing this and your heart's beating a little faster, if a mystery found on a scrap of Wyoming dirt grabs you the way it's grabbing me, hit subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss what happens next. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and whether your place has ever handed you a secret you didn't expect. We tell true feeling stories here, about ordinary people colliding with the extraordinary. And this one? This one just took a turn. By the time Naomi's Tacoma rattles down the lane, clouds have drawn thin chalk lines across the blue and the air has warmed enough to carry smell far. She steps out in scuffed boots, hair braided tight, ball cap shadowing eyes that miss little. She takes in the calves' hush, the turned earth, the way Jack stands with his hands empty like a man who forgot his tools and remembered his awe. "Show me," she says. He kneels. He scrapes again. Naomi crouches beside him and leans in until her shadow lays over the oval and cools it. "Huh," she says, and then softer. "Oh, they work." Fingers, then a brush from Naomi's kit, then a narrow trowel that has learned patience in 100 barns. The soil here is a different animal, finer, silk soft, and the color of tea when you forget the bag. Jack can feel where it changes under his nails, where some long ago river laid down silt and then folded its hands and let time harden it. The revealed shapes aren't random. They're geometry that remembers a breathing thing. The ribs arch in an elegant cage. A vertebra peaks like a knuckle. Farther in, beneath a layer that gives grudgingly, something larger. A paddle of bone. A blade. Naomi glances at him. "You see it?" "I think so." She touches the brush to the blade, flicks dust that gleams like ground glass. "That's a scapula," she says. "Shoulder blade." Her voice is careful, as if the word itself might break the thing they're uncovering. "And these ribs, Jack, these are not bison. What are they?" Her eyes dart between the bones and some diagram in the back of her mind that her schooling pinned there years ago. "They're old. Not elk. Not cow. Not us." Jack wipes his forehead with the back of his wrist and leaves a dark streak there. "Fossil?" Naomi doesn't answer exactly, which is answer enough. She straightens, scans the fences as if rumor might be leaning on one. "Before we do more, we call someone." "Who do you call for time?" Jack asks, and hears the strain in his own attempt at a joke. She's already thumbing her contacts. "University? Museum? Anyone who owes me a favor. We're out of my pay grade. We might be out of everybody's." Cole sets the bobcat's bucket down and lowers himself to sit on it, hat tipped back, a grin sliding onto his face that has trouble written all over it. "Well, neighbor," he says, "either you've got the world's fanciest fence anchor, or you're about to have strangers in expensive boots all over your pasture." Jack's heart beats once, hard. Strangers mean attention. Attention is opportunity, and risk repackaged. He squints toward the house, toward the kitchen table where his wife used to set 2 plates, then 3, then 2 again, and talk about the weather like it was a person you had to keep on speaking terms with. "Let's not get ahead of it," he says, but he can't keep his voice from floating a foot off the ground. Naomi snaps photos. She drops a pin and fires off texts that leave trails of gray bubbles in their wake. Then she sinks to her heels and studies the calves. They've eased closer, noses flaring, tongues flicking as if tasting the air itself. One lowers its head and licks the exposed earth. Naomi frowns, thoughtful. "They were right," she murmurs. "They were finding something." "What?" "Mineral," she says. "Bone is calcium phosphate. Over long time, groundwater trades that out for other minerals. If there's a vein here, if something's leaching to the surface, it could make this spot taste good. A natural salt lick, but built out of the past." Jack glances at the stone, at the slick line the calves cut into its skin. The idea that something dead could feed the living across a canyon of years feels both wrong and perfect. He likes it. It fits in his chest. An hour later, the first dusty Suburban of the day rattles in, followed by a pickup with a university seal faded by sun and indignity. Out climb a woman with sharp shoulders and a man with gentle hands. The woman introduces herself quick. Dr. Lila Chin, vertebrate paleontology, and the man slower. Professor Harold Pike, sedimentology, like he's reading the word off a card even though he wrote the card himself. Lila leans over the oval and breathes in. She doesn't touch right away. She looks the way a good cowhand looks at a herd. Wide, stitches everything together, trusts her eyes over the noise. "You moved the boulder," she says. "We did," Jack says, carefully. That stone might have capped this deposit, kept it from weathering out. Her mouth moves around the next sentence as if it has a taste. If this is what I think it is. And what do you think? Jack asks, bracing. She brushes a rib with a feather tip. Theropod. Late Jurassic by the look of the matrix. These proportions, scapula, rib curve, depth of the chest, could be juvenile Allosaurus. The name hangs over the pasture like a hawk. The calves blink. Cole's grin loses its footing. Dinosaur, Harold adds kindly, as if the word might need translation. I know that one, Jack says, a little stunned laughter breaking free. Big carnivore. My boy put a poster of one over his bed for a year and named it after the dog. Juvenile, maybe, Lila says, which is rarer. They don't die whole often. They get scattered, scavenged, rearranged, but here, and she traces a small arc with the brush. These bones are aligned. The rock sealed it. The creek did the rest. The creek chuckles on the far side of the cottonwoods, as if introduced. Naomi points at the calves. They've been licking the stone, the soil where we've opened it. If minerals wick up from the fossil, Harold nods, pleased by a simple truth. Capillary action. Groundwater moves through pores and fractures carrying dissolved ions. The rock you moved might have been a wick and a lid. The calves read it like a billboard. Animals know, Lila says. She looks at Jack. May we open this further? With your permission. We'll be careful. Jack glances at the fence line, at the house, at Cole, at Naomi. He feels the moment hinge. His land has held cattle, bees, sorrow, and 100 small victories you don't put in the paper. Now it holds something with a name that outlived its body. You'll keep it tidy, he says. You won't spook the herd. We'll flag it, fence it, and move like librarians, Lila promises. He nods. They grid the site with twine and stakes. They set foam pads for kneeling. They log each brushstroke as if stories can be written in dust. Jack helps where he can, hauls water, lays out tarp, holds back curious noses. The sun climbs and then leans. Shadows stretch. The work keeps a rhythm that feels like breathing. By mid-afternoon, more reveals itself. A jaw fragment with teeth the size of the ends of your fingers, serrated like a steak knife made by a sea. A femur that makes Jack's forearm feel like a toy. The curve of a pelvic bone that suggests motion even in stillness, as if the animal is about to rise and shake 60 million years of sleep out of its joints. Lila sits back on her heels and stares, and for a second the professional mask slips. She's a kid again, the one who loved a book so hard it lost its cover. If we have most of it, she whispers. If we have even 60%, this is extraordinary. What does that mean? Jack asks, voice hushed because everyone else's is. It means people will come, Harold says. It means study. It means the kind of story that changes how we fill in gaps. And for me, Lila meets his eyes, human to human over a chasm of time and bone. It means you found a long note, and now you decide how loud to play it. By evening, the pasture has a perimeter of orange flagging and quiet, intent people. Lila's crew grows. 2 grad students with sunburned ears, a county museum rep in a stiff shirt, and a deputy who parks by the mailbox and says he's just keeping an eye on things. News travels faster than grasshoppers. So does money. Jack finds the letter in his mailbox like a small white threat. 30 days. Adjusted rate. We appreciate your prompt attention. He folds it twice and tucks it behind his phone case like a splinter. Bad? Naomi asks, seeing his jaw tighten. Same old. He tips his chin toward the grid. New thing might be the only thing. Lila kneels over a jaw fragment that looks like a row of flint knives. These teeth are zipped for meat, she says softly. Serrations like little saws. The growth lines suggest a juvenile, still putting on bone fast. If we're lucky, this is mostly articulated. Meaning? It died and stayed where it fell, Harold says, hands dusty. Not carried, not chewed into a puzzle and thrown to the creek. That boulder was a lid. Your calves knew what the lid was leaking. Cole hovers, half helper, half bouncer. He eyes a silver SUV creeping along the county road. The driver lingers, phone lens glittering. Cole raises a hand, and the SUV rolls on. You'll have vultures, he tells Jack. The 2-legged kind with checkbooks and stories that start with friend. Some will mean it. Some will mean you. As if conjured, a man in a linen jacket appears, walking the fence line like he doesn't see it. He has the tan of airports and the smile of someone who has never changed his own tire. He introduces himself as Adrian Vale, representing a private collection with museum-level stewardship. Lila straightens, polite but flinty. We're in the middle of a scientific excavation. Of course, of course. Adrian's eyes never quite land on a person. They hover over surfaces and assign numbers. I'm here to make life easier for Mr. Merritt. You've got bills, I'd imagine. I can move faster than institutions. 7 figures fast. Jack says nothing for a long beat. The word 7 figures hits some hidden bell in his chest. He feels it in the soft meat of his palm, in the place where worry lives. Naomi watches his face. Cole does not bother to hide his scowl. Lila steps closer, voice low. Museum money is slower, but it's a public good. This is a once-in-decades find. It belongs where school kids can press their noses to the glass and fall in love with the long story. Adrian's smile never flickers. School kids will see it, I assure you. In my patrons' hall. Climate-controlled. World-class. Behind a party invitation. Cole mutters. Naomi puts a hand on Jack's sleeve. Whatever you choose, choose awake. They keep digging. Each hour peels back time and replaces it with decisions. The pelvis emerges like a saddle for a ghost. A series of vertebrae appears in a slow, perfect train, each centrum cupped into the next as if still warm. They jacket sections in plaster and burlap, white eggs hatching backward out of the ground. Jack learns to mix plaster by feel, to cut strips of burlap with his pocket knife, to hold his breath when a tooth slides into view like a moon rising. At dusk, a wind carries the smell of rain from the west. The calves lift their heads. The creek talks a little louder as if clearing its throat. Harold squints at the sky. Cells building over the range, he says. If we get a downpour, this cut bank could go sloppy. We tarp, Lila decides. We trench a small diversion, gentle. No machinery near the grid. Cole is already jogging for his bobcat. I can build you a berm without kissing a stake. Adrian Vale lingers by the gate, phone to his ear. Voice syrup smooth. Yes, here. Tonight if you wish. He's open. Everyone is open when weather comes. Jack's phone buzzes. It's the bank again, a number he knows by heart. He declines the call. He looks at the grid, the bones, the tarps being unrolled like canvas sails in fast hands. He hears Anna's voice the way you hear a creak at night through an open window. Always there. Keep the place if you can. Keep yourself if you can't. Naomi's flashlight spears the first drop. It is cold on Jack's cheek like a coin. The calves bunch together, their bodies a warm, damp wall. Thunder walks down the valley, unhurried and sure. Okay, Lila calls. Let's secure it before the sky tests our knots. They move. Tarps ripple, ropes cinch, stakes bite. Cole's machine whispers along the far edge, laying a low arc of dirt to swing water away. Lightning fans white behind the cottonwoods, and for a second the skeleton glows in the ground like a constellation given instructions. When the rain comes, it comes as if someone finally gave permission. It's not a storm so much as a rehearsal for the end of something. Sheets of water rake the pasture. Wind pulls the tarps like parachutes trying to forget their job. The creek flips from gossip to argument in minutes, brown and fast. Jack tastes grit in his teeth and wipes mud from his eyes, blinking into a world made of motion. North line, Lila shouts, one hand fisted around a rope, the other braced on the plaster jacket over the pelvis. If that corner goes, we lose the grid. Harold is half swallowed by the dark, coaxing a trench with a flat shovel, asking water to be reasonable. The grad students skitter like crabs, placing sandbags that used to be feed sacks. Naomi pulls tarps down and tucks them under jackets with the brisk tenderness of someone swaddling a newborn. A pickup pulls onto the shoulder and cuts its lights. Jack sees the shape out of the corner of his eye, the way a coyote sees a rifle, and every muscle in him tightens. Adrian Vale's voice slides out of the dark, sweeter than the rain is bitter. Jack, I have a team. We can move the best blocks to safety. My guys are professionals. 2 silhouettes hop the fence like men who never learned fences mean something. One carries a pry bar, the other a bundle of straps. Their boots don't pause at the flagging. They angle for the nearest plaster jacket. Off the grid! Lila's voice is a whip crack. Nobody touches a jacket without my say. The men don't slow. One bends to test the weight of the pelvis jacket. The other reaches for the rib block with a strap. Jack is moving before he decides to. He hits the nearest man in the shoulder. Not a punch so much as a shove that says no the way a bull says no. They go down in the mud like 2 bags of feed dumped wrong. The pry bar clatters. The other man freezes long enough to see Cole, broad and certain, stepping off the bobcat with a breaker bar in his hand and an expression that has ended bar fights without lifting it. Sheriff's 2 minutes out, the deputy calls from his cruiser, lights now flashing blue into the rain. Adrian lifts his palms, actor gentle. Let's not be dramatic. Sir, Naomi says, standing square between the men and the jackets, voice level. You step back or I will file a trespass report so clean it shines. Water presses at their knees. The diversion takes some of it, not enough. The creek is now a hand trying to pry open the grid. A tarp's edge rips. The wind takes it like a sail and throws it toward the cottonwoods. Leave it, Lila orders. Save the skull block. The word skull drops like a stone into Jack. He hasn't seen it yet, not truly. They've been working toward it, uncovering the back of the head, the base where it hinges, the suggestion of a face under a curtain of silt. He steps to where the rain walks you backwards and drops to his knees at the head of something that once looked down on everything else that moved. Water sluices away a layer as thin as onion skin. For a second, time gets out of the way. Eye orbit. Brow ridge. The shark-toothed grin of deep time. The skull resolves under the flood like a photograph in a darkroom tray. It's there because the storm took what it wanted and then gave this back. Jack! Lila is beside him, hands already setting a collar of sandbags around the head, making a small, stubborn island. We can jack it fast if we can keep the water off for 10 minutes. Cole swings the bobcat broadside to the weather and eases the bucket down to make a windbreak. The machine hunkers like a bull taking hail. Naomi hauls sandbags, plants them, hauls more. Harold cuts a second trench. The grad students become a relay. Bags, rope, stakes, bags. The deputy wades in, hat gone, jacket thrown. More sandbags from his trunk like some magic trick. Adrian and his men back off, faces gone sleek and empty in the rain. They retreat to their truck, lights flaring on, then gone. The storm keeps all the attention for itself. Plaster! Lila barks. Jack tears burlap into strips that stick to his thumbs. He dips them into the slurry and hands them to Lila, who lays them over the skull with the fast grace of someone who has done this under worse lights than this. Camp lanterns, headlamps, bad moons. The plaster steams in the cold, sets, hardens, becomes a shell. A second layer, a third. The skull disappears again, but now because they're choosing it. The creek roars its disapproval and eats at the bank in a single hungry bite. The hole under the boulder's old seat slumps, and a curtain of earth slides toward them like the back of a big animal rolling over. The island trembles. Hang on, Cole yells, and bumps the berm a foot higher, inching forward. Steel tracks churning mud that smells like pennies and old leaves. Jack braces the skull block with both arms, cheek against wet plaster, breath loud in his own ears. He feels the weight of it through the jacket, the way you feel the weight of a sleeping child through a blanket. Stay, he tells it, voice raw. You've waited this long. Stay. Then the storm does what storms always do. It gets bored with one valley and falls in love with another. The rain slackens. The wind takes one more good pull on the cottonwood and lets it go. Thunder speaks from farther off. The creek, insulted, keeps running but stops climbing. They stand in water to mid-shin and look at one another like survivors at the shoreline of a ship that didn't sink. Lila lays a hand on the skull jacket, palm flat, reverent but practical. Naomi laughs once, hard, a sound like a rope cut and something heavy falling where it can't hurt you. Cole tips water out of his boots and grins with all his teeth. Harold, soaked, pushes his glasses up and says, "We will need coffee." Jack sags back on his heels, plaster white on his coat, rain and sweat on his face, and finally lets himself look at what they saved. The grid is ragged at the edges. Some trench lines are now rivers, some stakes lean, some ropes sag. But the jackets sit like low white animals in a herd. The skull is safe. The past is in plaster. The present is winded, but on its feet. A cruiser noses down the lane, another behind it. The deputy waves them off with a thumb and a report to take later. Adrian's truck is gone. Jack fishes the folded letter out from behind his phone and holds it while the rain blurs the ink. He doesn't tear it. He doesn't tuck it away. He just looks at it until the words don't matter as much as the hands that just held a skull in a storm. Morning smells like wet sage and hot coffee. The pasture has the sober after-church quiet that follows a night nobody will joke about for a while. Sun walks the tarps and dries them in irregular maps. The calves pick through the grass, unbothered, pausing now and then to sniff a patch of earth as if to say hello to what sleep still holds. Lila's team moves differently, slower, grateful, competent in the way that shows up after a scare. They brace the slumped edge with timbers. They log the storm's edits. They call the State Museum and the university with voices that are calm because the skull is safe. Word crawls across the wires and blooms. By noon, a museum director in a clean denim shirt stands at Jack's fence with a thermos and a number. Adrian Vale returns with a new smile and a higher number. He speaks of endowments, of discretion, of removing the hassle. The museum director talks about provenance, public access, papers that will be read by kids who don't know they love rocks yet. One offers speed, the other offers permanence. Jack listens with his arms folded and his boots sinking millimeters into the damp. He doesn't ask Naomi. He doesn't need to. He glances at Cole, who rolls a shoulder as if to say your field, your call. He looks past both men at the skull jacket and feels the weight of his life stacked neatly for once. I'll sell, he says finally, voice steady. Adrian leans forward a fraction, scenting a win. Jack looks at the museum director. To you. On 3 conditions. The director blinks, then smiles like a man who enjoys a clean stipulation. Name them. First, it carries this place with it. Every label says found on the Merritt Ranch, Wind River Valley. Not my name big. This name big. He gestures at the fence, the cottonwood, the creek. Second, a traveling exhibit stops in town every few years so local kids see it without a bus ride and a fee. Third, a piece of the money sets up scholarships for ranch kids who want to study dirt and bones or cows and weather. Because a place is only as smart as the next hand that steers it. The director's face opens. We can do that, he says. We should do that. Adrian makes a small noise in his throat like a man who bit a pepper he thought was sweet. You're leaving a lot on the table. Jack considers him kindly. I've eaten off tables that looked full and didn't feed me. I'm full. They sign the papers in Lila's field office. A folding table under shade cloth that flaps lightly. And the number is enough. Enough to sweep the letter out of Jack's pocket into the trash. Enough to tune the tractor. Enough to fix the corner post that leans like an old man and to replace the cracked window that let winter through. Enough to sleep with a spine that doesn't curl around worry. Not so much that he can forget where he is. When they lift the skull jacket into the museum truck, everyone watches like it's a baptism. The calves line the fence and hum in their low way. The sound of contented animal lives that do not include banks or debates about public goods. Jack rests his hand on the warm metal of the truck bed and feels a pulse he can't name. Naomi bumps his shoulder with hers. You did right. I did ours, he says. Eyes on the road dust the truck throws as it eases away. Place gets to tell its own story. Lila lingers, fingers still stained with plaster. We'll publish, she promises. We'll bring it back for the exhibit. We'll send casts for the school. It won't vanish. It already didn't, Jack says. He looks at the boulder's old seat, at the slicked curve where calves wrote praise with their tongues. He sets a new mineral block on a flat rock nearby. Plain salt, nothing fancy. The calves come over and taste it. They accept this as easily as they accepted the other thing. Something good found at dawn, enough to share. Toward evening, after the last truck leaves and the pasture takes itself back, a wind comes off the range and runs fingers through the grass. Jack stands with his hands on the top wire and watches the calves fan out into the low gold. The grid is gone, the ground mended, small flags still lifting like insistent ideas. The creek chuckles as if it kept a joke to tell later. He goes inside and takes the laminated sheet from the fridge and replaces it with a photo printed on a borrowed office laser. The skull jacket, white and improbable, ringed by muddy boots. Storm still slick on everything. Under it, in Anna's handwriting from a shopping list he found in a drawer and couldn't throw away, he tapes a note. Keep the place if you can. Keep yourself if you can't. He smiles. Turns out, he says to the quiet, we got both. If this story pulled you in and you want more true-feeling tales where everyday folks collide with the extraordinary, tap subscribe and turn on notifications. And when you're done here, watch the next video. I'll take you to a cornfield where a rusted anchor isn't what it seems. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and if your land ever handed you a secret. Here, we keep it simple. The price, the choice, the heart of the thing.